Femicide is not something from a textbook. It's happening right now in Mexico. The most terrifying thing is that the rates of femicide are increasing every day. Just in the last month, more than 500 women were killed, with approximately 80 cases classified as femicide murders where the victim's gender was the motive. One such case was the murder of Valeria Marquez. It was so brazen that she was killed during a live TikTok broadcast in front of thousands of viewers from her audience. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is there, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Your support helps push this video to more people, and it could literally save someone's life. Let's get into the case. Valeria Marquez was born in 2002 in Guadalajara, cultural and economic capital of Jalisco State, Mexico. She was only 23 years old and was known as a model and beauty influencer. It's worth noting that Jalisco is one of the most dangerous regions in the country, especially due to drug cartel activity. The notorious Jalisco New Generation cartel is particularly active here. Valeria's family belonged to the middle class. Little is known about her parents, but they always supported their daughter's career aspirations. Details about her childhood remain largely unknown. She received her secondary education at one of the schools in Guadalajara, where she already showed considerable interest in fashion and beauty. Available data does not indicate any connections between her family and the criminal world, although her personal life later seemingly intersected with such circles. Valeria's career began in 2021 when she won a local beauty contest, Miss Rostro, Miss Face. This became the starting point of her public activity. She began actively developing her social media presence, especially on Instagram and TikTok. By the time of her death, her audience numbered approximately 220,000 followers on TikTok and over 100,000 on Instagram, an impressive growth over such a short period. Mexican media report that Valeria systematically built her career in the beauty industry. After winning the contest, she focused on creating content for social network sharing, makeup tips, self-care advice, discussing fashion trends, and showcasing her travels. Her Instagram often featured photos from private jets and yachts, indicating a rather affluent lifestyle. In 2023, Valeria opened her own beauty salon, Blossom the Beauty Lounge, in the Zapopan district of Guadalajara. Zapopan is the largest city in Jalisco State, known as a wealthy area, although the crime rate there is high. The salon was located in the Santa Maria Shopping Center in the prestigious Val Real neighborhood. The salon wasn't just Valeria's business, it also became a platform for her to create content. She often did live broadcasts right from her workplace, showing beauty procedures and chatting with her followers. People who knew her said she had big ambitions, she wanted to expand her influence in the beauty world and build a whole network of salons. There's not a lot of solid info about Valeria's personal life. Local media reported that for some time, she was dating a guy nicknamed El-R, or Double R, sometimes El Tripa, which means Tripa. His real name was Ricardo Ruiz Velasco. According to unofficial sources, he was connected to the Jalisco New Generation cartel, though the authorities never officially confirmed that. Valeria's life really reflected the complicated reality of modern Mexico. On one hand, she was a successful young businesswoman and influencer who worked hard to build her own career. But on the other hand, she lived in a place where criminal groups have a major impact on everyday life. In the last few months before her death, Valeria was very active on social media. Her posts showed her business growing and plans to reach even more people. There weren't any obvious signs of worry or fear in her post, but looking back, it's clear she might have felt some kind of threat. About 2 months before everything happened, Valeria posted a TikTok video with her friend influencer Vivian. The caption talked about their beauty and made a point that there was no sign of any fight or tension between them. That video later became an important piece in the investigation of her murder. Most of Valeria's profile was filled with photos from fancy places and events. She regularly got expensive gifts from fans. And according to some reports, those gifts might have sparked jealousy in her circle. Her friend Vivian later said that getting such presents was pretty normal in Valeria's life. A few weeks before the tragedy, Valeria didn't publicly show much concern about her safety. But in her last live broadcast, she did mention some strange attempts to deliver a gift to her. That made her suspicious, so maybe she did feel some danger, but perhaps didn't take it seriously enough. Valeria lived in a region with very high levels of violence. Jalisco ranks 6th out of Mexico's 32 states when it comes to murders. According to a consulting company called T Research, from October 2024 up until Valeria's murder, 906 murders were registered in the state. In that kind of environment, a young woman living a public life and showing signs of wealth could easily become a target for criminals. Her salon in Zapopan was located in an area that, despite its wealth and well-maintained streets, is actually one of the most dangerous municipalities in Jalisco. Shootings happen there regularly, even inside fancy shopping malls, but according to Zapopan's mayor, Juan Jose Frangui, Valeria never went to the authorities to report any threats against her. On May 14th, 2025, at 6:30 in the evening, the horrible murder of Valeria Marquez took place. The tragedy happened inside her own beauty salon, Blossom the Beauty Lounge. What makes it even more shocking is that the murder happened during a live TikTok broadcast Valeria was doing herself. Thousands of her followers witnessed the horror unfold in real time. According to the Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office, right before the tragedy, two men on a motorcycle pulled up to the salon. One of them went inside and asked if Valeria was there. When she confirmed it was her, the man pulled out a gun and shot her at least twice, once in the chest and once in the head. In the last moments of her life, Valeria was live on TikTok. She talked about being worried over some stranger who was trying to give her an expensive gift. In the video, which spread across the internet almost instantly after the tragedy, Valeria is sitting at a table. She's holding a soft pink pig toy that she had received earlier that day. During the broadcast, she suddenly said, "They're coming." Then a man's voice can be heard in the background saying, "Hey, Vale." She answers yes, and then turns off the sound. A moment later, Valeria suddenly grabs her chest and stomach. Then she falls back into the chair. After that, someone takes her phone. For a brief second, the face of the person holding it flashes on camera before the broadcast abruptly cuts off. When the Zapopan police got the emergency call, they rushed to the scene. When the officers arrived, they found Valeria's body still sitting in the chair, the pink soft toy still clutched in her hands. Official reports say she'd been shot once in the chest and twice in the head and died instantly. The video of the murder spread like wildfire across social media. Even though platforms tried to take it down because of how shocking it was, thousands of Valeria's fans became unwilling witnesses to her death in real time. This event caused a huge wave of shock and outrage, not just in Mexico, but beyond its borders too. People who were actually in the salon said that before the shooting, two men on a motorcycle stopped at the entrance. One of them came inside and introduced himself as a courier who had brought an expensive gift for Valeria. Dennis Rodriguez, a spokesperson for the Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office, shared some more details. He said the attacker asked if Valeria was there. "It seems like he didn't actually know her personally," Rodriguez explained. From that, you can reasonably conclude, without jumping to conclusions, that this was likely someone who was paid to do the job. Clearly, this was someone who came with a specific purpose. The prosecutor's office called it a possible femicide that means the murder of a woman because of her gender. Though the prosecutor's office hasn't officially named any suspects, local media outlets, especially the Millennial publication, reported on the main suspect. They named a man known as El Doble R, or El Tripa, that's Ricardo Ruiz Velasco. He's said to be a powerful member of the Jalisco New Generation cartel operating in Zapopan. It's alleged that Velasco dated Valeria for several months. Reports say their relationship was marked by strong jealousy on his part. He supposedly got angry about the expensive gifts Valeria received from her admirers. Mexican media also reported that Valeria had possibly received threats from this former partner. Some outlets published alleged text messages that supposedly show the ex-boyfriend threatening her because she ignored him. But it's important to note that the identity of this former partner hasn't been independently confirmed, and no one was able to reach him for comment. Valeria's family refused to speak with journalists. On May 17, 2025, the Jalisco State Prosecutor, Salvador Gonzalez de los Santos, held a press conference. He said, "Everyone connected to this girlfriends, relatives, acquaintances, or boyfriends is under investigation or being questioned." He confirmed the murder is being investigated as a possible femicide, but didn't say whether the ex-boyfriend is officially a suspect. It's also important to look at the bigger picture here. On that same day, May 14th, just about 2 kilometers from Valeria's salon, former Congressman Luis Armando Cordoba Diaz was also shot and killed by 2 men on a motorcycle. The prosecutor's office said that murder is being investigated as well, and it might be connected to Valeria's death. And less than 2 days before Valeria's murder, in the city of Texas Tepec in Veracruz State, Yesenia Lara Gutierrez, a mayoral candidate from the ruling Morena party, was killed during a political motorcade. Like Valeria's case, her murder was caught on camera during a live stream on Facebook. Valeria Marquez's murder shook Mexican society to its core and caught worldwide attention. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said her government is actively cooperating with local investigators to find whoever did this. She offered condolences to Valeria's family and urged everyone not to share the video of Valeria's death out of respect for her and her loved ones. Valeria was buried on May 16th. A bouquet of white roses lay on her coffin. The funeral was held under tight police supervision, which showed just how tense and worried people were about possible incidents. As of now, the investigation into Valeria Marquez's murder is still ongoing. The Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office is gathering evidence and interviewing witnesses. Police are carefully reviewing surveillance footage and analyzing all of Valeria's social media accounts. They're hunting for any clue that might help find the killer. Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, or El Tripa, is a key figure in this investigation. Although the prosecutor's office hasn't officially named him a suspect, the influential Mexican publication Milenio openly points to him as the main suspect. Information about Velasco is scattered and sometimes contradictory, which is pretty typical for people tied to organized crime in Mexico. From what's known, he was born sometime in the 1980s, somewhere in Jalisco State. The exact date and place of birth aren't officially confirmed. Mexican media call Ruiz Velasco one of the leaders of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, also known as CJNG, which is one of the most powerful and ruthless criminal groups in Mexico today. This cartel controls a large part of Jalisco and is involved in drug trafficking, kidnappings, extortion, and other crimes. According to Mexican press reports, Velasco leads an elite unit of the cartel that carries out high-profile murders and disappearances, including those of celebrities and influencers. He's described as one of the most brutal criminals in the country, although there are no public official charges against him. Velasco's criminal record, according to published reports, goes way back. In December 2014, the Excelsior newspaper reported the arrest of Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, then 34 years old, and nicknamed El Tripa Seca. He was wanted on 9 murder warrants for killings committed in 2013 and 2014 in Jalisco, including the murder of the state's Minister of Tourism, José de Jesus Gallegos Alvarez. Back in March 2013, it was reported that Velasco was involved in a shootout with police in Calvillo on April 24, 2013. Military, naval, and federal police units captured him and took him to the Guadalajara airport. From there, he was flown to CIDO, that's the Special Counter-Narcotics Investigative Unit facilities in Mexico City. However, details about Velasco's arrests and prison time remain unclear and unconfirmed. It's possible he was released or avoided a long sentence due to corruption in law enforcement, which is unfortunately common in areas where drug cartels operate. Ricardo Ruiz Velasco is also connected to the murder of model Daisy Ferrer Arenas. Her body was found in a sewage canal in Guadalajara back in April 2022. Local media link Velasco to that case as well. He's also tied to the killing of Juan Luis Lagunas, known as El Pirata de Culiacan, or the Pirate of Culiacan. Lagunas was shot on December 19, 2017, inside a bar in Zapopan. This happened after he mocked Nemesio Osagura Cervantes, aka El Mencho, the founder and leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, in a video. Even though official sources deny his involvement, Ricardo Ruiz Velasco's name keeps popping up in Mexican media and social networks when they talk about this case. And honestly, there's widespread distrust among Mexicans when it comes to official investigations, especially those linked to drug cartels, because corruption and impunity run deep. The Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office, which is handling the investigation into Valeria Marquez's murder, has faced repeated accusations of cartel connections. They deny these claims. Some sources say that up to 90% of crimes in Jalisco aren't properly reported or investigated. It's important to know that not every woman's murder is legally classified as femicide in Mexico. There are specific criteria for that, like previous threats, or stalking by the killer, sexual violence, extreme cruelty, or public humiliation of the victim. In Valeria's case, what tipped the scales was the fact that her murder was publicly executed during a live broadcast, a conscious show of power over a woman's life. The Jalisco Prosecutor's Office explained that the nature of the crime, the prior threats on social media, the public nature of the murder, and the professional method of killing all come together to justify calling it femicide. Gemma Clope Santa Maria, a sociologist from University College Cork in Ireland who studies gender-based violence in Mexico, said, "Femicide reflects how saturated and socially accepted such killings have become. There's a lot of re-victimization, which lets people say, let's just move on. This won't happen to us. This doesn't happen to good girls. This doesn't happen to decent Mexican women." A big part of femicide in Mexico is blaming the victim for what happened to her, and sadly, that happened with Valeria Marquez too. After her murder, social networks were flooded with comments blaming Valeria herself, saying things like, she was involved in shady business, her ex was a narco, she brought it on herself. That kind of victim blaming shows how violence against women is normalized and how a culture of impunity is created. Mexico's National Statistics Agency published some shocking data in April 2025. From 2001 to 2024, more than 50,000 women were killed in the country, and most of these cases never get solved. Less than 5% end in convictions. In 2023, Mexico ranked 4th in Latin America and the Caribbean for femicides per capita. Only Honduras, the Dominican Republic, and Brazil had higher rates. Human rights defenders believe the real numbers are much higher. Many femicides aren't even registered as such or not recorded at all. What's especially alarming is that according to the Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office, Valeria's murder was already the 8th femicide, just in the first 2 weeks of May 2025 in that state. That shows the problem is getting worse fast. Over recent years, a number of high-profile murders of women and girls sparked nationwide outrage and protests, but the situation hasn't really changed. Some of the cases that shocked the country include Ingrid Escamilla, a 25-year-old woman killed and disfigured in 2020. 7-year-old Fatima Cecilia Aldrague, kidnapped from school that same year, whose body was found wrapped in a plastic bag. And 18-year-old Debanji Escobar, who disappeared near a highway in 2022, with her body found in a reservoir almost 2 weeks later. Jalisco is one of the most dangerous states in Mexico. T Research reports that since Claudia Sheinbaum became president in October 2024, 910 murders have been registered there. The state has been hit hard by cartel violence. In March 2025, authorities discovered a cartel training center just 50 kilometers from Zapopan. Since 2018, around 15,000 people have disappeared in Jalisco. Valeria's murder is not just a personal tragedy. It's a sign of a deeper social illness that needs a comprehensive response. This kind of environment creates a culture where femicide is seen as understandable, especially if a woman steps outside traditional roles or shows independence. Machismo, that is, hypermasculinity that glorifies male dominance and aggression, is still very strong in Mexican culture. It often serves as a justification for violence, as a way to show male power over women. Dr. Maricela Frutos from the National Autonomous University of Mexico explains, machismo isn't just cultural, it's a structural part of gender inequality. When women challenge traditional roles, like building careers on social media, they often become targets of violence punished for breaking gender norms. At the political level, despite reforms against femicide, Mexico still struggles to enforce these laws. Often there's no political will, and responsible agencies remain underfunded and ineffective. Nadine Gassman, former head of Mexico's National Institute for Women, said even with the historic election of the country's first female president, the institutional response to gender violence remains insufficient. The problem isn't the laws themselves, but the failure to implement them and a lack of real political will for systemic change. The cartel violence makes things even more dangerous for women. Cartels run parallel power systems, act with impunity, and use violence to control. Women in the public eye, like Valeria Marquez, become targets not just because they're women, but because their visibility threatens these criminal networks. When we step back and really think about femicide, especially in places like Mexico, it's clear that this is more than just isolated tragedies. It's a deep, systemic issue that touches every corner of society and reflects how dangerous it is for women to live openly and independently in certain environments. Femicide is the ultimate expression of gender-based violence. It's not just about the act of killing, but what it represents: control, fear, and punishment for women who dare to challenge social norms or simply exist on their own terms. It's a chilling reminder of how much work still needs to be done to protect women's lives and dignity. What makes cases like Valeria's so heart-wrenching is how public and brutal they are. The fact that her murder happened during a live broadcast wasn't accidental. It was meant to send a message, to instill fear, and to demonstrate power. That's why femicide isn't just a crime. It's a social warning sign that demands a collective response. It's crucial to understand that femicide doesn't just affect the immediate victims and their families. It shakes whole communities, leaving lasting scars and a culture of fear that can silence others. It forces society to face uncomfortable truths about gender inequality, violence, and institutional failure. But amid this darkness, there are practical steps and tools women can use to enhance their safety. Awareness is key. Recognizing early warning signs like controlling behavior from partners, isolation from friends and family, frequent threats, or unexplained injuries can be life-saving. Trusting your instincts when something feels off is just as important. Developing a personal safety plan can make a real difference. This means knowing quick escape routes from your home, having emergency contacts ready, and sharing your plans with someone you trust. Changing up daily routines to avoid predictability helps reduce risk. And technology can be a powerful ally. Smartphone apps designed for emergencies can discreetly alert authorities or loved ones when you're in danger. If you ever feel threatened, don't hesitate to reach out for help. In Mexico, the emergency number is 911. This connects you to police, medical, and fire services. For victims of domestic or gender-based violence, there are specialized hotlines and support organizations ready to listen and assist, including psychological counseling and legal guidance. It's vital to break the silence and stigma surrounding violence against women. Speaking out, supporting survivors, and demanding accountability from authorities helps shift the culture away from impunity. Remember, no one deserves to live in fear or suffer abuse. The fight against femicide requires more than just laws on paper. It calls for genuine political will, effective law enforcement, and social change. This means funding for victim services, training for police to handle these cases sensitively and thoroughly, and public education to challenge harmful gender stereotypes and machismo culture. Each of us plays a role in this struggle, whether by raising awareness, supporting local organizations, or simply standing up against sexism and violence in everyday life. Our actions matter. Justice for victims like Valeria isn't just about punishment. It's about creating a safer, more equitable world where women's lives are valued. So if you or someone you know is facing danger, please reach out. Don't wait for things to escalate. Keep emergency numbers handy, share your location with trusted people, and use available tools to protect yourself. Help exists, and you are not alone. Take care of yourselves out there. Thank you for staying with me through this video. May Valeria rest in peace, and may her sacrifice not be in vain. For all of us, we have to keep fighting for justice.